I felt his breath against my neck before I even turned around. Warm. Heavy. Tempting. My fingers tightened around the edge of the locker as his hand slid over my hip, the sound of wet skin brushing against spandex echoing louder than the music thumping from the gym's hallway. His lips grazed my ear. He whispered my name. Not Mrs. Whitmore, not ma'am. Just Jessica. I should have said no. I should have pulled away. But I let him peel off my leggings like they were wrapping paper. I let his mouth do what Thomas had not done in months, kiss me like he meant it. I felt Malik's hands grip my thighs as he lifted me onto the cold bench inside the trainer's lounge, the door locked behind us, my wedding ring still on my finger. My moans betrayed every vow I had ever spoken. As I clawed at his back and felt myself unravel in his arms, I did not think about consequences. I did not think about my 11 years of marriage, the house with the white fence, or the man I had promised to grow old with. I only thought about how good it felt to be wanted again. Before we go any further, I want to say a huge thank you to all my subscribers. You are the heart and soul of this channel. And if you are watching this and have not yet subscribed, I genuinely cannot wait for you to hit that subscribe button. It is the fuel that powers this raw storytelling. Share your thoughts in the comments as we dive deep into betrayal, desire, and the fall of forever. Let me know, what would you have done? Now, back to that moment. I am Jessica and Whitmore. I have lived in Atlanta all my life. Real estate broker, picture-perfect wife, manicured life. Or so it seemed. For 11 years, I played the role. Sunday brunches, dinner parties, Pilates at 6 a.m. I did it all. And I did it for Thomas Whitmore. The man I met in law school, the man who chased success with the hunger of a lion, the man I married under an oak tree in Savannah, barefoot, drunk on love and wine. But Thomas stopped seeing me. He saw numbers, clients, partners. He saw the billable hours stacked higher than our shared dreams. He came home late, kissed me on the cheek like a brother, and never noticed when I stopped wearing red lipstick, the one he used to call dangerous. I met Malik 6 months ago. At the gym. He was not part of the plan. 29. Black. Gorgeous. Smooth-skinned with a jawline that looked chiseled by God's own fingers. A flirt, yes, but thoughtful. He noticed my form during squats. He complimented my strength, not just my shape. And one rainy Thursday, as I finished a workout soaked in sweat, he asked me if I wanted to grab a smoothie. I said yes. That yes cost me everything. It did not happen overnight. At first, it was subtle. Texts about training turned into texts about life. Innocent jokes evolved into 2 a.m. confessions. He made me feel alive again. I felt my thighs clench when his name popped up on my phone. I started wearing red again. The night it happened, Thomas had canceled our dinner for the 3rd time that week. Said a client needed him in Buckhead. I said nothing. I got in my car, drove to the gym, and told myself I needed to run off some frustration. Instead, I found Malik alone in the trainer's lounge. He had been waiting. I remember the way his lips tasted of mint and secrets. The way my body trembled, not from shame, but from surrender. My back arched against the bench. My fingers knotted into his dreadlocks. I remember whispering, "Oh God," and knowing deep down it was not him I was calling out to. I gave in completely, without apology. I chased pleasure like it was salvation. I forgot who I was. Afterward, I lay there breathless, tangled in his warmth, sweat drying between our bodies. And then my phone buzzed. It was a message from Thomas. "Be home early tonight, babe. Got us tie. Miss you." I stared at the screen, numb. My heart pounded louder than the silence in the room. Malik kissed the side of my breast and asked, "You good?" I nodded. But I was not. I was spiraling. Guilt seeped into my skin like poison. I wiped between my legs with a gym towel and stood up, legs shaking, hands trembling. When I got home, Thomas was on the couch with a takeout bag and a bottle of wine. He smiled, so oblivious it hurt. I kissed his forehead, told him I was sore from a hard leg day, and went upstairs to shower off Malik. That was the night forever broke. The morning after the affair, the sun rose just like any other day. But something inside me had shifted. I moved through my kitchen like a stranger, pouring coffee with the same hands that had gripped Malik's shoulders hours before. My wedding ring felt tighter, heavier. Like it knew what I had done. Thomas sat at the kitchen table scrolling through his phone, dressed in a crisp blue shirt, his tie hanging loose around his neck. He looked up and smiled at me. A warm, effortless smile. The same one that made me fall in love with him years ago. For a moment, I almost believed I could carry on like nothing happened. But then he said something that made my stomach turn. "You slept like a rock last night," he said, sipping his coffee. "You did not even move." I laughed. Or tried to. But my throat tightened, and all I could do was nod. Because I had not slept in our bed. I had showered 3 times and cried on the bathroom floor like a teenager hiding from her parents. I had scrubbed Malik off my skin, but his fingerprints were still there, invisible, but undeniable. As the days passed, I slipped into a double life. Morning meetings. Property tours. Perfect wife. Perfect smile. And then, in the evenings, I would find myself back at the gym, sweating out guilt and lust in equal measure. Malik was always waiting. With that wicked grin. With those hands. And soon, the trainer's lounge was not enough. We started meeting at hotels. Cheap ones, in Midtown. Rooms that smelled like bleach and desperation. I told myself I was in control, that it was just physical. But I knew better. Malik made me feel seen. Desired. Alive. He asked questions Thomas had not asked in years, about my fears, my dreams, my regrets. And slowly, the space in my marriage grew wider than our king-sized bed. But nothing stays hidden forever. It started with small things. Thomas began to watch me differently. He would walk into the room without warning. Ask where I had been when I came home later than usual. He even brought me flowers one afternoon and said, "You have been distant lately. Everything all right?" That moment cut me deeper than anything Malik ever could. Because Thomas still loved me. And I was slipping away from him, piece by piece. One evening, while I was dressing to meet Malik, Thomas came up behind me in the mirror. He wrapped his arms around my waist and kissed my shoulder. I froze. His touch felt foreign now. Not because it was wrong, but because I was no longer his. I had crossed too many lines. That night with Malik was different. He was rougher. More demanding. Like he could sense I was drifting. He grabbed my wrists harder, left bruises I had to cover with makeup. When I asked him to slow down, he stared at me and said, "You do not get to play innocent, Jess. You knew what this was." I felt something crack. The next morning, while Thomas was in the shower, I opened his briefcase to slip in a client brochure he had forgotten. That was when I saw it. A second phone. Black. Sleek. Hidden beneath a folder. My pulse spiked. I picked it up, my hands shaking. It was locked. But then a message popped up on the screen. "Good morning, handsome. Still thinking about last night. Face blowing a kiss." I stared at it for a long time. Long enough for the water to stop running. Long enough for the mirror to fog up and the world to tilt. So it was not just me. Thomas had secrets too. He came out of the bathroom humming, wrapped in a towel. I stood there, holding the phone behind my back, numb. I wanted to scream. To ask him who she was. But I said nothing. Because I could not judge him. Not after what I had done. Not when my body still remembered the way Malik whispered my name as I came undone beneath him. Instead, I set the phone back in the briefcase, quietly. just like I had set my guilt aside. I walked downstairs and made breakfast. Eggs. Bacon. Toast. Everything he liked. He came down whistling, kissed me on the cheek, and said, "You are amazing, you know that?" I smiled. And something inside me died. Later that night, Malik called. He said he wanted to see me. Said he missed me. But his voice was different, darker. He asked who I was with. Asked why I had not texted all day. "Are you still sleeping with your husband?" he asked. I said nothing. Then he laughed. "You are all the same." He hung up. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the floor. The truth was, I did not even know who I was anymore. I was drowning in lies. My marriage. My affair. My own reflection. It all felt like smoke and mirrors. And yet, something deeper told me this was only the beginning. Because secrets always breed more secrets. And betrayal is never one-sided. The next morning, I followed Thomas. He said he had a meeting in Buckhead. But he turned off early. Parked outside a townhouse. Rang the bell. A woman opened the door in silk pajamas. She kissed him. I watched from my car, heart cracking open like glass underfoot. I wanted to hate him. I wanted to burst out of the car and scream. But all I could do was cry. Because now, I knew the truth. Forever had broken for both of us. And the pieces were cutting us deeper than we ever imagined. The next few days were a blur. I moved through them with hollow eyes and a steady heartbeat that felt more mechanical than human. My marriage was not a lie. I had loved Thomas once with every piece of me. But now? Now we were both actors in a play neither of us wanted to watch. He had a secret lover behind a townhouse door. I had a man who bit my skin and whispered my name in the dark. We had both broken something sacred. The worst part? We had done it quietly. Silently. Without rage or confrontation. Just slow-burning betrayal, like rot behind wallpaper. But it was time. I could not carry it any longer. One evening, I waited for Thomas in the kitchen. I made his favorite bourbon roast. I lit candles. I played that soft jazz station he loved. It was not an apology, it was a setup. I wanted him calm, open, unguarded. I needed the truth. I deserved it. He walked in looking tired, his tie already loosened. He kissed my forehead like always and said, "You look beautiful tonight." I did not flinch. We ate in silence. Every bite felt like chewing on ash. When we finished, I poured him a second glass of wine and said the words I had rehearsed 100 times in the mirror. "I know about her." He froze mid-sip. His jaw twitched. But he said nothing. "I saw you, Thomas. At the townhouse. Last Thursday." He stared at me. No panic. No denial. Just surrender. Then he said, "And I know about Malik." The room dropped into stillness. My mouth went dry. He leaned back in his chair, eyes heavy, voice low. "I found your gym bag. The towel. The smell. And then, the hotel receipt. You left it in the glove box." I wanted to run. To scream. To curl into myself and disappear. But I stayed still. "I was going to leave you," he added. I was already speaking to a lawyer. Then I changed my mind. I thought maybe we could fix it. But you were already gone. That was when it hit me. We had both been planning our exits without ever saying goodbye. Thomas stood and walked to the window. His shoulders looked smaller than I remembered. More human. More tired. "We lost each other, Jess. A long time ago. You just made it real." I did not argue. Because he was right. Later that night, I packed a small bag and left. No screaming. No drama. No broken dishes. Just silence. Cold, final, necessary silence. I drove to a cheap hotel in Midtown and called Malik. I should not have. But I did. When he opened the door, he looked surprised. He was shirtless. Tattoos on his chest I had never really noticed before. He smiled, but his eyes were sharp. I stepped inside and told him everything. That I had left Thomas. That I had no plan. That I just needed something real. But what he gave me was not love. It was control. Malik changed after that. The sex turned rougher. The words colder. He would ask who I had been texting. Accuse me of still seeing Thomas. I started to realize I had jumped from one fire into another. One night, I found a condom wrapper in his bathroom trash. One I had not used. I confronted him. He laughed. You really thought I was waiting on you, he said. That was the moment I knew I had made a mistake. A devastating one. I packed my bag again. This time, with tears streaming down my face. He did not stop me. He just lay back on the bed and grabbed his phone, already texting someone else. I drove back to our house. Not because I wanted to go back, but because I needed closure. When I walked in, it was empty. My key still worked, but the pictures were gone. My wedding dress, once preserved in a box in the guest room closet, had been left on the floor, crushed and stained. It looked like a ghost of a woman I used to be. On the kitchen counter was an envelope. Inside, divorce papers. Thomas had signed them already. At the bottom, a note in his handwriting. I hope you find what you are looking for. We both deserved better than what we became. T. I sat down on the kitchen floor and cried harder than I had cried in years. Not because I wanted him back. But because I realized I had lost everything, and I had no one to blame but myself. A few weeks passed. The house sold. I moved into a small apartment downtown. My nameplate at work changed from Mrs. Whitmore to just Jessica A. Whitmore. People at the office whispered. Some smiled too sweetly. Others avoided me completely. The world knew pieces of the story. Not all. But enough. And Malik? He sent a few texts. Some angry. Some sad. Some that read like drunk confessions at 2 a.m. I blocked him. I had to. I was done chasing chaos and calling it love. Now, I sit here, alone at a bar on the edge of the city. I have a whiskey in one hand and my divorce decree in the other. The bartender flirts. He is handsome. Kind. He does not know my story yet. And maybe that is a good thing. I glance at the paper one more time. At the word finalized printed in bold. Forever is a fragile word. We say it with rings and kisses and promises under the stars. But forever can break in a whisper. In a touch. In a lie. And when it breaks, it cuts deep. But somehow, I am still here. Maybe not whole. But awake. Honest. Real. And maybe, just maybe, that is a beginning I can live with.